Imagine if Chevrolet disappeared tomorrow. That's exactly what happened to Pontiac. A brand that built the GTO, Firebird, Trans Am, Judge, and some of America's most legendary performance cars simply vanished in 2010. So, how did one of the coolest names in automotive history end up on the chopping block? Pontiac wasn't just another car company. It represented excitement. For decades, seeing that red arrowhead badge meant you were looking at something a little louder, a little faster, and a lot more fun than the average family sedan. But despite decades of iconic muscle cars and loyal fans, Pontiac couldn't survive. Today, we're looking at exactly what happened, from its golden years to the decisions that slowly pushed the brand toward extinction. Pontiac actually began in 1926 as a companion brand to Oakland, another division of General Motors. Almost immediately, Pontiac outsold Oakland. By 1931, Oakland was discontinued entirely, leaving Pontiac to carry the torch. For decades, Pontiac earned a reputation for offering cars that sat between Chevrolet and Oldsmobile. They weren't luxury cars. They weren't budget cars. They were stylish, sporty, and aimed at younger buyers. That positioning worked extremely well throughout the 1950s. But everything changed in the 1960s. If there's one person responsible for making Pontiac legendary, it's John DeLorean. Yes, that John DeLorean. Before creating the stainless steel sports car made famous by Back to the Future, he worked at Pontiac. In 1964, he and his team found a loophole in GM's internal rules. General Motors had prohibited mid-size cars from receiving engines larger than 330 cubic inches. So Pontiac quietly offered buyers a special package that installed its massive 389 V8 into the Tempest. The result became known as the GTO. Many historians consider it the very first true muscle car. Suddenly, everyone wanted one. Sales exploded. Other manufacturers rushed to build competitors. The horsepower wars had officially begun. Pontiac became one of the hottest performance brands in America. On that note, if you could own one classic Pontiac forever, what would it be? A GTO? A Firebird? A Trans Am? Maybe a Judge? Let me know in the comments which model you would park in your dream garage. Throughout the late 1960s and early 70s, Pontiac seemed unstoppable. The GTO became an icon. The Firebird emerged as the Camaro's stylish cousin. Then came the Trans Am, aggressive styling, shaker hoods, big V8s, and enough attitude to become one of America's most recognizable muscle cars. Movies like Smokey and the Bandit only added to the legend. Sales soared. Pontiac wasn't just building cars. It was building an identity. Owning a Pontiac meant something. But then, everything changed. The early 1970s hit Detroit hard. Insurance companies began charging massive premiums for high-horsepower cars. Then came stricter emissions regulations. The 1973 oil crisis made gas prices skyrocket. Consumers suddenly cared far more about fuel economy than quarter-mile times. Muscle cars across America lost horsepower almost overnight. Pontiac adapted the best it could. Performance cars remained in the lineup, but they weren't the monsters they once were. Then another problem emerged. General Motors itself. GM owned Chevrolet, Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, Saturn, GMC, Hummer, Saab, and Pontiac. Many of these brands started competing against each other. Instead of giving Pontiac unique vehicles, GM increasingly relied on badge engineering. That meant taking an existing Chevrolet and changing the grille, headlights, and badges. Fans noticed. The excitement faded. By the 1990s, Pontiac had largely lost its identity. Sure, there were bright spots. The Firebird Trans Am still had plenty of fans. The supercharged Grand Prix GTP offered serious performance. Later, the Australian-built GTO returned. The G8 sedan proved Pontiac still knew how to build an incredible driver's car. Unfortunately, these cars arrived too late. Many buyers simply saw Pontiac as another version of Chevrolet. Sales continued falling year after year. Then came the event that changed everything. In 2008, General Motors entered one of the darkest periods in its history. The financial crisis devastated car sales. GM was losing billions. To survive, the company accepted government-backed restructuring. That meant difficult decisions. GM couldn't keep every brand alive. Executives narrowed the company's focus to four core brands: Chevrolet, Cadillac, GMC, and Buick. Pontiac was eliminated. Production officially ended in 2010. After 84 years, one of America's greatest automotive names disappeared forever. What's fascinating is that Pontiac didn't die because people hated its cars. In fact, many of its final vehicles, the G8, Solstice, and even the last GTO, are highly respected today. The problem was timing, corporate strategy, and years of losing the identity that had once made Pontiac special. Maybe that's why enthusiasts still miss it. Because Pontiac wasn't just about horsepower. It represented an era when American automakers weren't afraid to build bold, exciting, and sometimes outrageous cars. So here's one final question for you. If Pontiac came back today, what car should wear the Arrowhead badge first? A new GTO? A modern Trans Am? Something completely different? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this look back at one of America's most iconic brands, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories about classic cars, muscle cars, and automotive history.